Yo, my legendary warriors, Chronos here, and you already know what time it is. Welcome back to What If Deku Had Solo Leveling System, Part 10. Deku's power is reaching levels beyond imagination. His shadow army is growing, and the battles? Absolute chaos. If you're here for next-level fights, broken power-ups, and peak anime energy, you're in the right place. Before we jump in, hit that like button. We're aiming for 100 likes to drop the next part. And if you're new here, subscribe and join the Unstoppable Legends. Because this series, it's only getting crazier from here. Big shout out to Michael Zilanka, the mastermind behind this fire concept. Go support them. Now, no more waiting. Let's dive into the action. When Izuku entered his room, he saw two figures that when he realized who one was, Izuku rushed to hug him, which the other reciprocated. "Dad, it is so good to see you again," he muttered whilst hugging his dad, with Nijire, Rumi, and Gabriel following suit. The five talked Hasashi asking if he was alright and if the angels were treating him well and catching him up to speed on what happened in the world. As a lot has happened during the span of 2 days, Michael started the conversation after the six of them settled on the couch. "I am here to tell you more about the supernatural, so if it would be possible, can you ask questions after I finished explaining?" Receiving nods, the angel continued. Supernatural is a general term to call anything that isn't human, which includes the Neo-Judish Christian Islam pantheon, Heat-Henry, Hellenistic, Kemetic, Shinto, and many more pantheons. Neo-Judish Christian Islam is my general term for the angel/fallen/devils pantheon, but I will be calling them the biblical faction going forth. Heat-Henry is the Nordic or Germanic paganism pantheon. Hellenism is the Greek pantheon. Kemetic is the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Shinto is the Japanese pantheon. I hope that it brings some context. The biblical pantheon is made up of us angels, fallen angels and devils, with myself being the leader of the angels after our father, otherwise known as God, passed away after sealing Trihexa and weakening it. He ignored the wide-eyed looks from all but Hasashi. "From our research, you have 4 to 12 winged angels, but if my theory is correct, you have met single-set winged angels, right?" He received a nod from Izuku, so Michael continued, "It is the same with our pantheon, but our numbers are over 17 million. The fallen angels are angels who fell from heaven by committing sin. Both of our groups have the same general powers of light though. They number around 8 million. Finally, the devils, which I might add you might need to look out for." He sighed at this point. "They have a similar power to revive people like us, but the key difference is that for some reason they cannot resurrect a human with a quirk factor." He could see questions popping out of the blueonette. Nijire, if Michael remembered right. Their population is around 25 million because they're chess pieces with mostly humans reincarnated into devils. Their powers are similar to your angels but also have bloodlines, from the power of destruction, which is a higher tier destruction quirk, to immortality to everything, but light-based attacks and running out of mana for them to regenerate. Michael's face still had a smile on. As I mentioned earlier, sacred gears were created by God to help humans against the evil side of the supernatural. Most human leaders before the Quirk era actually had some type of sacred gear. But when they all disappeared, the people who held them had no power of the gear. That was a time when the Second Biblical War nearly occurred. He sighed, remembering the chaotic time. Most devils bar the leaders wanted war with the other pantheons, from the jealousy and the need to show that they are still powerful. During the first Quirk appearances, devils were the only race to experiment on humans with them, using the people as slaves, more than ever before. However, every pantheon that still exists came together and had the devils not come to Earth except in specific areas, but now they are monitored more than ever. The reason we all came together was because humans give us strength. From their prayers and thoughts we can grow in power, but some pantheons also made an oath to keep humans safe. There was more that Michael didn't say. The devils, the race that follows desire, had done worse towards the humans at the beginning of the Quirk era. After failing to resurrect them into their peerage, some devils tried breeding the humans with devils, but to no use. The children always became quirkless and surprisingly rejected the superior devil side of their blood. Not to mention, a lot of people who lost their sacred gear were murdered for their uselessness within the devil faction. The 4 leaders, Surzex, Ajuka, Seraphal, and Falbium, nearly had to deal with a civil war, but they dealt with everything by publicly executing the main leaders of the failed uprising, which to everyone's surprise was the Great King faction, including Zekrom Bale. This was a shock to all factions, but that cemented the trust of the 4 Devil Kings, as it was believed that Zekrom had more political pull than the 4. but it had seemed that the devil leaders have snapped and not caring with the consequences. After the resistance was dealt with, the Devil Kings made the living situation in the underworld better for all that lived there, with the devils not needing to go to the human world for anything but to specific locations appointed by the other factions. Whilst it may have been seen unfair, the other pantheons did help the devils with resources and manpower to create a better living environment. Wow, that is only the biblical faction, right? Rumi asked. Michael just nodded. I will tell you more about the other factions in a bit. But questions? To no one's surprise, Nijire asked the questions involving this situation. Do the fallen angels have the same wing system as you do? What about the devils? Can you do elemental attacks like Zuko's shadow angels? With those questions continuing, with one sticking quite well, how is heaven? Michael had to reload his brain after the minutes of questions, but after some time he started to answer, yes, the fallen angels have the same system as we angels. However, whilst heaven has 4 12-winged angels, they only have Azazel that has 12 wings. The devils only have 1 pair of wings, but some families have their own type of wings. Sadly, angels and fallen angels can only do light attacks. With those under a certain family can use elements, but they can be numbered in the hundreds altogether. This continued for 10 minutes, until Michael answered the last question of Nijire's. Heaven is a beautiful place. There is a lot of greenery, and the night is pure. I believe that you will enjoy your visit. He finished with a beaming smile that affected the others in the room too. The talk continued for another 3 hours, with Izuku sharing his experience with different supernatural gates such as the Heaven Castle, the Red Gate Baba Yaga, and Devil Circles. The Lance of Longinus that Gamer showed the Archangel said that it was a superior weapon to the original Longinus and the weapon that St. Peter holds. With the group going to heaven for a full day the next week on Tuesday, therefore they said their goodbyes to Hasashi and Michael, awaiting their meeting the next week. Anyone want a late-night meal? Izuku asked, with the girls eagerly nodding and sitting of the high chairs looking as Izuku cooked. Everyone was tired one way or the other, but all had one thing in common. They were hungry. Did you know about the supernatural Mullo? Rumi asked the mouse miraculous. The 3 Kwamis are always free to relax when no one is in Izuku's room bar the 4 people. Mullo in her squeaky but adorable tone spoke. We had an inkling that humans were not the only species, but we never saw any evidence of them. Like, I believe that they didn't know about us until Hawkmoth revealed us. Sass hissed. That is true, however before Ladybug we were rarely let out of the miraculous at all, so our knowledge is limited. I agree. But it is fun with you guys where we don't need to worry much about our safety. Kaki finished but might have stopped when Izuku rubbed the top of its head. Got some food for you guys too, so eat up. Izuku spoke with a small smile. It was minutes later when Izuku got the rest of the food out for the angel and 3 heroes, with them later going to sleep, with the 3 Kwamis sleeping on top of Izuku's hair. Next day, classes returned to normal for the first-year hero students, with Izuku returning back to class once again. He greeted the rest as per usual, with Shota starting the class soon after Izuku arrived. The hero training that 1A had in the afternoon was another lesson using weapons by Titania and a happier Kamikaze. Kamikaze spoke to Izuku, being sorry for the organization he worked for did, and thanked him for disbanding the HPSC. Izuku knew that the sword hero was being falsely extorted for him to work for the commission. The young monarch continued training in using a katana but also a long sword, as Izuku and Igris usually interchanged the demonic and angelic sword between themselves. Urza Scarlet, a woman who is a high A rank that has the possibility to break the S rank barrier, has a dual quirk similar to Shoto that she can interchange what armor and weapon she uses. The drawback is that she can only have 5 different armors and 10 weapons in some type of storage. Kamikaze's quirk allows him to use vibrations through his body and sword. Whilst it didn't have an external use like with Yoshindo, the internal manipulation has an augmenting property allowing him to be faster and slightly stronger. This also applies towards swords for some reason. Izuku continued to analyze the 2 part-time teachers, with him shaking of the thoughts when he had to parry a sword strike from Heian. Kneeling down, Izuku swept his legs on the ground, with the Korean student barely being able to jump over, with her making 2 swords trying to stab Izuku. Holding one, with the other being blocked by his Kusanagi, he pushed Heian off, with her flipping in the air, landing on her feet. She smirked and started to concentrate. Izuku allowed her, as he was curious of what she was doing, with him seeing a light bead of sweat going down her face. The monarch saw a sword being created every 2 seconds, with 7 already floating around her. With the last one done, Heian smirked, with the swords that were pointing outwards sharply turned, pointing towards Izuku, with them flying straight at him. Having a smirk of his own, Izuku dodged the first 3. With him punching another one, he jumped over the last 4, but sensed that the remaining 7 were following him. You have improved Heian. With that, he added mana to his katana, cutting the remaining swords into bits. Her hands were on her knees whilst she panted. Izuku saw more sweat going down her face. Thanks. I need to catch up, don't I? A somewhat cocky smirk appeared on Heian's face that suited her well in this situation. She was glad that she could have more time with Izuku. You are improving at a really impressive rate. Whilst this week is going to be busy for me, I can continue helping you next week. Izuku continued wanting the best for his friends. I would love that. A smile appeared on her face, happy that she could spend time with Izuku, but when she was about to continue the conversation, she saw Shoko flying towards Izuku from blocking a sword strike against Mizo. Izuku easily caught her in his arms with him, placing Shoko down. There. Be careful next time, alright? He spoke in a low tone, with the white-haired girl nodding in thanks and a smile on her face. In front of the press, the Hero and Hunter Association building. The old building for the HPSC was now changed into the MHA, with All Might being the president. Although All Might had full control, he still asked Nizu, Izuku, and Sir Night Eye to help him run it, with Nizu hiring some people to help Toshinori. Now sitting on a long table, 4 individuals sat with reporters in front of them. At the very left sat the head of Japan's police, a female with dreadlocks, with her quirk being pressure that is similar to bloodlust but without the killing intent. To the middle left sat a man is currently the Prime Minister of Japan. His quirk was an intermediate regeneration type. The middle right was occupied by All Might, the president for the new HXA, and to the very right Monarch sat, the youngest national level that is stronger than All Might himself. Behind the table behind them were 8 individuals, with each of the 4 having 2 bodyguards each. The 4 individuals had to discuss what to do for this meeting for a couple hours before this event. All Might coughed awkwardly, which in turn quieted the press. With this being a good opportunity, he started. Good afternoon, Japan. Like promised 2 days ago, I will update you on the Hero and Hunter Association and what happened to HPSC, and what our plans are for the future. All Might looked at all of the reporters. I am joined by Hirei Nakuni, the Prime Minister of Japan, Onikiki Urawa, the head of Japanese police. Finally, Izuku Midoriya, the provisional hero monarch. Those 3 names all had political and stationary powers that would make people double guess before acting against them. Firstly, the HPSC is disbanded, with all of the wrongdoings already being posted on the new Hero and Hunter Association website if you want evidence. Hawks was one of many heroes who couldn't have done anything against the HPSC. A reason was us finding an exploding chip in his brain, ready to be released if Hawks or another hero was not following orders. A lot of gasps were heard. Our medics have removed them, with all of them being able to retire or continue working as heroes. There are many wrongfully imprisoned people that will be released, as they were the innocent people that were used by the HPSC. Japan was shocked. Sure, a lot of them read through the report that was on the website, but it was still a shocker. Our goal for the Hero and Hunter Association is to help Japan and its citizens. Times are hard with the increase of gate activity, with villains still being active. Therefore, with Onikiki and Monarch, there will be more patrolling police, heroes, and shadows for your safety from not only villains but gates too. This also means more jobs for the people who want to help in the front lines without being in much danger. With the help of Hirei, we will be opening jobs for Gate Monitoring Division. More information will also be present on our website if you are interested. The mentioned individuals nodded when their names were called out. We will be opening centers where hunters that do not have a higher license from hero schools may train and raise their rank to be allowed in higher level gates. You will be evaluated, and if passed, you can enter the next gate rank, and so forth. This caused many watchers to be happier, as some felt that D-rank gates were too easy. Finally, we will be using the same idea as Europe is doing with opening quirk parks. Those areas is where you can use your quirk safely to have fun and train. You will not have to worry about being reprimanded for public quirk use. Taking a deep breath, All Might asked, "Any questions?" No one shouted, but all had their arms raised. All Might started to pick the reporters with them asking questions. Hirei, Onikiki, and Izuku all had their fare of questions asked their way, with the interview lasting over an hour. The questions varied from weapons to the quirk park, but with everything being answered calmly and logically, there was no doubt that Japan will be a happier and safer place. Later, with Izuku went towards his room. Some of his classmates made dinner with the whole class eating together. Now Izuku reserved a low A-rank dungeon for his classmates to go in the next day. With Gabriel out, the two started to converse. "Tenchi? Wanna go stargazing on the roof?" It was a clear night, so with Gabriel smiling, she answered, Sure, darling. With the two teleporting to the roof with Izuku brining out a blanket. Izuku laid down with the angel shadow laying her head on the greenette's chest. The two looked at the stars with the moon not being seen at all. It is nice, she spoke in a whisper as there were more stars than usual. I agree. There was a pause that Gabriel noticed but allowed her lover to continue. I don't think I have told any of you girls why I love hiking and stargazing. Gabriel looked into his eyes, seeing the sadness in the green orbs. I had a friend, he was my best friend with us doing everything from camping to playing heroes. Whilst his temper was on a different level, his heroic heart was the largest I have ever seen. Now the angel was concerned with her thinking. Why is darling talking in the way that person is no more? Izuku continued his story. His favorite things to do were hiking, stargazing, and exploring, which I may have gotten from him too. This not only reminds me of him, but I also want to have good times with the people I love. Izuku chuckled dryly. Gabriel hugged Izuku tighter, seeing where this was going. He squeezed her hand in reassurance. He was like a brother to me. He didn't discriminate me and actively tried helping me. Unfortunately, the world wasn't nice to him. When we were 11, the doctors discovered that he had cancer of the heart, but it was encroaching on stage 3. He tried acting through it, but after a while he couldn't pretend as it had spread towards his lungs. Gabriel gasped lightly. He passed away only 6 months later. His last words were to me, I believe in you, Izuku. I know you can be the greatest hero in the world. That is also a reason why I have healer skill. This person name was K. Izuku couldn't have finished because of a phone call. Picking it up, he just heard Nizu's voice. I am sorry to ask you this, Izuku, but can you complete a gate? It was neglected and it would open tomorrow. It is on the above the sea around 15 kilometers away from the ISE bay. It reads to be a high A rank gate. Izuku sighed mentally. Sure. Give me the coordinates and I'm staying the night near ISE bay. With that, he hanged up. Want to complete a gate? Then we can watch the stars on the beach? Gabriel wanted to strangle the mammal as he interrupted her lover's story. But now she could spend more time with Izuku. Sure, why not? Izuku used Kamui to get to the ISE bay, with the duo flying towards the gate on Kaisel's back. Flying straight into the gate, they saw a cave system with water flowing from the bottom. A water dungeon? That is a first. Izuku nodded. Let's get this dealt with. With that, Izuku released his humanoid shadows, speaking, put the corpses into the inventory. With a simple command, the shadows went towards every corner dealing with the monsters. The couple went towards the highest energy signature, with it being a tall blue monster with a long snake tail and the upper body looking similar to a dinosaur with fins. It held 2 tridents, but what Izuku and Gabriel saw, it was growing in size. A size-altering ability? It had a pure white name, which may have meant anything from E rank to mid-S rank monster. But Izuku's senses told him it was a mid-A rank monster. Lord Naga of the Water Tribe. Whilst I hate that Nizu took us away, I believe that it would be hard for the heroes to clear it. Gabriel spoke, as she sent out a light beam towards the monster, which deflected it with difficulty. I can't fault him though. Not only is it hard to get up to this portal from the water, if what Nizu told me was to be believed, then tomorrow the gate would have been broken with more problems happening. Izuku continued as he made gravity hold the boss in place whilst Gabriel sent another light beam with much more power, killing it. Lord Naga of the Water Tribe has been defeated. Seeing as Izuku had 60 Nagas in his inventory, he placed them in front of him with the Naga Lord, Arise. After seeing that he can name them, he only chose to name the Lord, Your name with Bijima. He said to the 61 new shadows. The level of your arisen shadows increased. 60 Naga LV.15, Night. Jima LV.1, Elite Knight. Whilst on the weaker side of my shadows, the numbers should still help with gates and villains. Izuku analyzed the situation. In the entire world, only 4 S-rank gates opened naturally, including the ones turned into red gates. Jeju Island, Washington Memorial, the Demon Red Gate, and the one in Russia that recently opened. So he didn't have many chances of getting stronger shadows, with him mostly relying on the keys and them leveling up. However, the world believed that there were 2 more, one that Gunhigo stated that Izuku completed with the angels, with the other one being the one with dragons that he recently completed. In Russia, 18 people in one room, with 12 of them being hunters, to be more exact Team Alpha. The other 6 were from the Russian Hero Association and Monster Subjugation Team. Thank you for coming. The man who spoke on the podium received the full attention of the 17 other people present in the room. This is the 6th gate of the rank of S to appear in the world. As you all know, the other 5 S ranks were all mostly dealt by Monarch from Japan, and it is documented that each one either had levels and or thousands of enemies, all but one. Jeju Island had thousands of insects. Red Demon Gate, that Star and Stripe with Monarch entered, had 8 levels with 1,000 or so monsters. The American Memorial only had 40 monsters, but they were on the level of national heroes. Finally, the 2 Monarch completed by himself or with Maruko are believed to also have levels with thousands of enemies. With this conclusion, there is a high chance of you all having to fight thousands of enemies. Therefore, for your and Russia's safety, you will be joined by Vladimir. Gasps were heard from the Hunter Squad, with the leader of the monster subjugation team giving the podium to Vladimir. A man in his 40s came up on the podium. The bold man with a strong physique not only was the strongest person in Russia but also the president. Good afternoon. As stated from Maxim, I will be joining you. We never know what may happen in the gate. Everyone had respect for the man, with some of the Alpha Squad becoming mentally relieved. But it doesn't mean we will be giving in to cowardice. If we don't complete this gate, then the chance of it breaking out can cause worse consequences for our motherland. All of the original participants could only nod. All of them were loyal but also loved their country. We will be going in tomorrow, so get ready and fight strong, my hunters. With this motivational speech complete, they all were set to complete the first S-rank gate that Monarch won't participate. Back with Izuku. After leaving the gate, the 2 slowly flew together towards the bay where they could rest for the next day to come, with Izuku promising to take his classmates to a gate. Both agreed that this gate was way too easy for them, but Izuku reminded Gabriel that a stray knife can always kill them, or Izuku to be exact. After waking up with Gabriel on his chest in the hotel room they booked, both got ready with Izuku sending 500 shadows to look for Nana. Even after a couple of months, no signs were found. I might need to ask to go to Tartarus with All Might to ask All for One where she is. Izuku thought to himself, but there was no rush, mostly curiosity. After getting hotel breakfast, the 2 leisurely traveled to UA on Kaisel. During the day, the class had normal classes until after lunch where the 21 students and a teacher all went on a bus. As you already know, you all will be going to a gate. I will allow Izuku to continue. Aizawa started whilst being on the bus. I have booked us a gate to complete. This will be a high B rank gate that borders on a rank. Therefore, the boss will be low A rank at worst. Izuku spoke to his classmates. The formation will be as we have discussed prior, with the 20 nodded in confirmation, knowing their roles in the gate. Izuku and Aizawa will be to observe, with the gamer being ready to be there just in case anything happens. The tankers are going to be Rikidu, Mezu, Ejiru, and Kuji. The mages will be Mina, Ochako, Denki, Hanta, Yuga, and Shoko. The main attack force is Momo, Katsumi, Fumikage, Heiin, Mashireo, Tenya, and Chika. Finally, the support will be Hitoshi, Toru, Kyoka, with some having 2 roles such as Mezu and Kuji also being part of support. Whilst rare to have a large party, the group will be taking a gate that will have larger monsters than commonly seen. Whilst in the future raids this group number may be a problem, I know we can make this work. Izuku cheered them on with a light smile. Light conversations began to start between the students as the bus will be taking another 15 minutes to get to the portal. This will be my second gate. The last one we did with Ketsubetsu was quite simple. Mina started to talk about the gates. Hey, inside. Yoremusha is making every sidekick help with E and D rank gates, and I already done over 5 with them. The Ice Princess nodded to that. Endeavor is making us do E to C ranks at least once a week. He banned us to go into B and upwards without an S-rank hero. Doesn't that mean he is caring about your safety? Especially since you are his daughter? Kyoka asked. That old geezer thinks we are still too inexperienced. Silence came to what Katsumi said. Whilst many didn't want to admit it, they were first-year students that started to control their quirks to use their full potential barely 6 months ago. Tenya butted in. What he said is true. Lack of experience kills. It is better for us to slowly start increasing the ranks of gates we can go in. Izuku put in 2 cents. What Tenya said is correct, Kaken. Even at the start, I only entered E and D rank gates with slowly entering higher ranks. The first time I entered an S rank, I could have died. Only luck saved me then. So before I entered another high ranked, I trained and practiced more in the lower dungeons. Katsumi nodded begrudgingly. Additionally, the HXH still has the rule that hero students with provisional license can only go to the gate with their rank level, otherwise be as support for a rank higher. As everyone here is at least B rank with some in a rank, everyone can go into this high B rank gate. Just as he said so, the bus stopped near the gate entrance. Izuku clapped. Remember me and Sensei always have your back, so don't worry. With that, Izuku met up with the gate control unit of HXH, and after the formalities, the 22 people went in. Inside the gate, Izuku and Aizawa went to the back, with Gabriel coming out to talk. "Good morning, Gabriel." The teacher greeted the shadow. "Good morning to you too," Gabriel said with a small smile. Izuku began to talk to the two. "From what I researched, this gate will be full of snow golems. They may be as fast as a low B rank, but their resistance is higher being at lower rank." Gabriel nodded with Shota. "And here they come." Gabriel started, with the three seeing that the long-distance attack group shot their attacks with Dark Shadow making the finishing move. "They are becoming stronger. I know that at the end of the school year, everyone in the class will be at least a rank." Shota complimented for once, having a smile on his face. Izuku nodded. "I will also be arising these monsters." "How come, Izuku?" Shota asked curiously. "I have over 1,000 spaces to use." Izuku ignored Shota's eyes widening. "And these snow golems are good for protection, but also decisive finishes, as their strength isn't nothing to scoff at. Arise." With that, the snow golems started to rise up, with some of 1A looking behind them to see Izuku getting a new shadow. The shadow was around 5 meters tall with a bulky tone, with their arms reaching the ground. Its color was black with light blue where the snow spikes have been. The shadow has been upgraded. Snow Golem LV.1, Night. Understandable, I guess. Shota said as he saw Heian cut another snow golem in half whilst Kyuka sent out a sound wave allowing Chika to toss Denki in the air, electrocuting the monster to death. 2 Snow Golem LV.1 Night. As time went on, more and more monsters appeared and more shadows. Izuku arose, in total getting 54 snow golems. Now they were in the large room that was the boss room. The boss was larger than the snow golems by at least 3 times, with more snow being produced. "Be careful. This monster can control an element," Izuku warned them. Lord of the Snow Golems Golu. Whilst being a pure white name, Izuku thought it was around level 5 Knight. Whilst it will be a struggle for his classmates, not him. Izuku theorized that the shadow will be at a higher level. That similarly occurred with the snow golems. The plan was simple for 1A. Momo created heat grenades that will be thrown after the tankers block the first attack. This plan was being followed as predicted, with Katsumi flying high to distract it for Hanta to tie its legs up, allowing Mina and Shoko to throw their attacks at the boss. However, the second part wasn't completed. The monster backed away after the heat grenades, making snow start to form into balls. Tenya and Rikidu broke the flying snowballs with their strengths, having Yuga shoot his naval laser at the monster. Toru sneaked behind the monster, placing an explosive bomb on its legs, with Tsuyu pulling Toru back when the explosion occurred. Chika used her speed and a sword to cut its arm off, allowing Hanta to tie its legs up properly. This allowed Fumikage to release Dark Shadow to punch it, and finally, Katsumi fell from the air with her sword cutting its head off. Lord of the Snow Golems Golu has been defeated, clapping his hands. "Well done. You didn't panic when your plan failed at first and defeated the boss in just 2 minutes." Turning to Aizawa, Izuku asked, "I think they can go into a low-rank dungeon next time?" With the teacher nodding in confirmation. Walking up to the dead monster, Izuku said, "Arise, Golu." With that, a shadow version of the Lord of the Snow Golems appeared, with Izuku theory becoming true. Golu LV.20 Night. With that, the shadow soldier went into Izuku's shadow, and Izuku said, "I got the crystals and the bodies with me, so if you want, I can sell them and give you the reward." After nodding, the 23 went outside with Gabriel and Izuku talking. Sir Nightai's agency meeting room an hour after the gate. It was a surprise to many seeing the number of heroes in the meeting room. Sir Nightai with his 2 sidekicks stood up front, with his intern Lemillion sitting on the table. 15 local heroes, Rocklock, Fat Gum with his intern Sun Eater, Ryukyu with her intern Nijire-chan, Maruko. 2 people seemed to be missing, but as fated, the door opened revealing Shota Aizawa and a shadow soldier named Baru. The teacher said, "I am sorry. Izuku couldn't come here as he has a meeting with the Prime Minister." "Baru, it's nice seeing you again," Rumi said whilst she patted the ant shadow on the head. "Night, I just sighed at that. I guess that is acceptable. I am also guessing that Baru here is instead of Monarch. Baru was ordered to be nice and cooperative, with the promise of watching dramas later, with it nodding. My liege asked his lowly servant to oversee these preparations for taking the villain down. Everyone nodded at this, ignoring the lowly servant part. Baru was a known shadow of Izuku since the all-for-one fight, with people knowing he was in the national levels. Continuing on, we have found more details. Fat Gum, would you mind? Sir Knight I asked. Fat Gum nodded. When I was patrolling the city with Sun Eater, we had to stop a small gang war. However, at the end, Sun Eater was shot using this. He showed a small plastic bag containing a bullet with the inside being half full. This is a cork erasing bullet, or at least a cork erasing bullet for 4 hours. With some researched, there was blood in the bullet. But we were already aware of this. Then he got another bag out. A couple days later, we got another one. But this time the effects lasted for a full day. At this rate, we are predicting that they will develop a bullet that erases corks completely. Some gasps were heard around the table, but Sir Knight I continued, "Thank you, Fat Gum. We have finally found the residence and we will be attacking this Sunday." He looked around every face, him continuing, "The reason for it is because everyone including the 8 precepts of death and Overhaul will be there then." Any questions? There were some questions with Baru actually asking one. The power that Fleshbag Leader has, does it work the same way as the Potato Man student has? Sir Knight I blinked dumbly, with Rumi translating. Baru is asking if Overhaul has a similar quirk to Tamura Shigaraki, with Sir Knight I nodding in agreement to the question. Then that power does not work on the greatest army. Baru nodded resolutely, but everyone understood that Overhaul's quirk is useless on the shadows, allowing them to actually fight the villain without dying. Izuku POV. I sighed happily. Finally, I got a contract with the Japanese government and the HXH. That was a reason why I missed the meeting for the Overhaul raid. Baru appeared near me with the shadow speaking. "My liege, the humans who are organizing the raid said that it will commence this Sunday. May this servant of yours join too?" I couldn't help the small smile. "Sure, I won't mind," I said with a pat on Baru's head. With that, the shadow soldier went back to my shadow. "Tobi, Zetsu, did you find anything?" I asked the duo who were in command in search of Nana. The two arose and shook their head, with Zetsu giving me a map of Japan. Over 2/3 of Japan have been searched with every possible location, but still no luck. Or the base where Nana was hidden is really secretive, I thought to myself. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Now I have to finish the preparations for the fake funeral. Russian S-rank gate. Fuck. How could we deal with this? Person shouted. What actually happened, one might ask. The Alpha Squad and Vladimir failed to complete the gate. Out of the 12 Alpha Squad members, only one survived. She was the one that got an unconscious Vladimir out. Her final words were, "Poison. It's poisonous and nothing can protect us from it." Then she fell unconscious. The news spread fast in Russia that the S-rank gate failed, with multiple S-rank heroes who were not in the Alpha Squad arrived. The medics started to treat the president of Russia and the surviving Alpha Squad member. Shit, we can only put them in a medically induced coma. What the fuck is this poison? A frantic medic was saying he had a healing quirk, but it was similar to Recovery Girl's quirk. Another medical staff member spoke. There are 2 S-rank healers in the world. The Korean one who is retired and won't leave Korea at all, and Monarch. He might get these 2 properly healed. Outside the medical unit, over 15 S-rank heroes and over 50 A-rank heroes are on standby in case the S-rank gate spits out monsters. This is bad, one of the heroes said. Behind him stood the Russian army in case the worst comes. I agree, the top squad in the country is taken out and our president too? How on earth does Monarch deal with these gates? Frustration was occurring, but each of the heroes' respect for Monarch increased for completing multiple S-rank gates. The vice president voice was heard in a call with the Monster Subjugation Unit commander. I will call the Hero and Hunter Commission of Japan to ask if we can have Monarch's help to not only heal our injured but deal with the gate. The vice president finished. Izuku just finished a gate by himself, but when he left the portal, he wasn't in the same place as before. Looking around, Izuku spotted he was on a road. With no cars around, he tried to connect to the internet, but with no use. What the fuck is happening? Then seeing a car, he asked for it to be pulled over. Seeing that 2 men were inside the car, one frail with glasses, the other with white hair and tinted glasses. Excuse me, but which way is it to UA? Izuku asked sheepishly. Both men blinked, or at least Izuku thought the white-haired man blinked too. UA? What is that? A school? The white-haired man asked. It was Izuku's turn to blink. Don't you know? A high school to train heroes? For them to use their quirks. Izuku asked unsurely. Are you all right there, young man? The frail man asked. But to the surprise of both Izuku and that man, the white-haired man exited the car. You're strong, but you don't even have any cursed energy but a different source. Then the white man pulled his blindfold off. What are you? A sharp stare was given towards Izuku. Izuku just blinked. Cursed energy? I do have mana. Izuku then used infinity to block the white-haired man's punch. And now, what are you doing? The white-haired man couldn't help but smirk. You also have the same ability as I. Infinity. Name is Satoru Gojo and you. A lazy smirk appeared on Satoru's face. Izuku Midoriya. A smile appeared but with closed eyes. Izuku knew what will happen. When Satoru rushed forward, Izuku opened his eyes, revealing his Sharingan in the Mangekyo version, and used permeability to make Satoru fly through Izuku. Then Satoru teleported towards Izuku with the greenette blocking and parrying every strike that the older male sent out. Izuku used sprint to get behind Satoru and whispered, "You're weak," to try and get the white-haired man of his game. All that accomplished was making a tick mark appear on Satoru's face. You twerp. Blue. Izuku parroted, sending his own blue to intercept Gojo's one. With some debris flying around, Izuku used stealth, and dragons will not only make Satoru weaker and sneak up on him from behind. The white-haired man, not wanting to lose, had a different trump card. Domain expansion, unlimited void, getting Izuku in it. But to his surprise, Izuku did his own. Domain expansion, total darkness. The two domains fought for dominance with neither of them winning, making both break. Want to finish? I still need to find a way home, Izuku asked. Sure, why not? With that, Izuku Midoriya and Satoru Gojo became friends, with the love of fighting, teasing Fushiguro, and having fun with each other. Thursday, it was a day that the fake funeral of Hasashi Midoriya will occur. So now Izuku was meeting the three friends of his dad from America. Next to him were Nijire, Rumi, Aizawa, and the Bakugo family. The mourning was saying their goodbyes to the fake body of Hasashi. Izuku even had a few tears. It only took 30 minutes for the body to be cremated from a quirk user. The ashes were placed in a vase and finally placed into the Midoriya grave, where Inko Midoriya laid. At the back, some of Izuku's shadows stayed to say their respects towards their liege's father's fake funeral. The service was short, but after that Izuku invited everyone for a meal in gratitude for coming to the funeral. Izuku also arranged hotel rooms for the guests that came from America, as Izuku found out that those were his dad's real friends. Friday. The next day, Izuku used Kamui to travel to America as it was his internship day. Kathleen decided for night patrolling and showing Izuku how night patrols differ from day patrols. Izuku was going to miss school as it is already nighttime in America whilst Japan has the sun still showing. How's Zest? I haven't seen her since the sword practice, and why didn't you tell me that she was going to teach at UA? Izuku playfully glared at his sister figure that he secretly placed a Leshy shadow in. The #1 hero of America chuckled. She actually wanted to try teaching. Now she is thinking of being a teacher on the side. Also, we will be meeting Zest at the end of the patrol. At the end, Kath had a knowing smirk that Izuku rolled his eyes to. With a serious tone, I have placed an 8-wing angel in Zest's shadow and a Leshy in yours. Seeing that his teacher was about to say something, Izuku continued, I don't want to lose anyone. Kathleen flinched, lightly reminded that Izuku's father was killed recently. So if you are in a bind, the Leshy will help, or you can call me for help, and I can teleport to you. A Leshy is in the captain class, meaning high S rank to low national level. In a lower tone, Kathleen said, Thanks for that. I will also pass the news to Zest. But the #1 hero had a smile. It was an hour in their patrol when Izuku asked, Hey Star, I got a question about the gates? The two of them stopped a robbery not too long ago, and now they finished dealing with the police. Yeah, she replied, curious at what her little brother wants to ask. Is there an area of USA that monsters have broken out and are in control? Izuku asked. Sighing, she replied, Oklahoma and Kansas have areas where monsters taken over. With Alaska being the largest state, a lot of monsters have broken out of the gates. Why? I was wondering if I can send my shadows to clear the monster-infested parts. Kathleen face-palmed. I forget that you have shadows sometimes. I will make a call towards the president of the Hero Association so you can do that. During the time Star and Stipe made a call, Izuku spoke. Mikao, Baru, Pain, Igris, Baruka, Raphael. The 6 shadows came out. I am assigning a group under your control for you to kill any monsters that have broken out and take the bodies of B-rank monsters and up. Then put it in the shared inventory. The only shadows that are not protecting his classmates but are looking for Nana are Tobi and Zetsu. The 2 of them have nearly searched the main island of Japan with unimaginable speeds, with them going to search the islands such as Hokkaido in a week's time. Kathleen interrupted Izuku. Sorry Izuku for interrupting, but can you also send shadows to Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota? Both the president of USA and Hero Commission agreed and allowed you to keep the monster corpses and stones if you deal with the gates in those states too. Then she added in her mind, it is a fair reward, I won't lie. They know that Izuku can do it, and it will make America safer for some time. Izuku nodded and muttered, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota, with Alaska. I hummed, Conan, can you come out too? With those 7 shadows with them all being in the captain class came out. Star could feel that all of these shadows are low national level with some nearing the mid-national level. Tell the president of the Hero Association that I will be sending shadows to the 7 mentioned states, but I will also be sending others around America to clean up all gate breaks. Star nodding in thanks and told him some places that had reports of some monster breakouts. Heroes deal with them, but they are beginning to get overwhelmed as more and more gates open with more monsters coming out. I need you all to kill of all monsters, complete all gates, collect all monster corpses and magic stones too. Finished. Mikao, take all of the Nomu, the Lightning Dracos and Kakuzu with you. You will be going to Oklahoma. That group dispersed after they bowed. Then Izuku got Baru. Baru, you will be going to Kansas with Ant Soldiers, Poison Dracos, Dark and Gothic Vampires, and Haydn. That group dispersed after bowing. Pain, you will be going to Colorado with Deidara, the Fire Dracos, the Seductive Vampires, and the Vadianoi and Alkanost. With them bowing, they left to their destination. Igris, you will command the Knights and all of the High Orcs including Tusk. You will also have the Mages, Itachi, and the Earth Dracos, and you will go to Nebraska. After they bowed, they left too. Baruka, you will be going to Iowa with Sasori, the Wind Dracos, the Elder Vampires, all Ice Elves, Fluffy and the rest of the Ice Bears, and finally all Snow Golems including Golu. Whilst this was the largest group so far, they have weaker strength on average, so after they bowed that group left. Raphael, you will be taking Orochimaru, Uriel, Sadkiel, the Water Dracos, the Virtues, the Thrones, and the 10 and remaining 8 Winged Angels. You will be going to South Dakota. With that, they bowed and left. Finally, Conan, you will be going to Alaska. Izuku smiled towards the lone Akatsuki female. As it is the biggest state of USA, you will be in charge of more shadow than the others. Izuku thought that he saw Conan blush, but she blushed due to the trust her liege is putting on her. You will be taking both the Light and Dark Dracos, Fisher, the Rusalkas, the Last Leshy, and both Serpents of the Light and Dark. Have fun. With now the biggest group that numbered 240 bowed and left towards Alaska. Izuku ignored Kathleen that had her eyes were widened. Darkness and Light Hatchlings, Power Angels, Cherubs and 4-wing angels, please go to the areas where Star and Stipe showed, but make rounds around USA to make sure no monster is out of the gates. With that, they left after bowing. Now just to make sure no gates appear on the sea with monsters on the loose in the waters. Kisame and Dracula will take 30 Naga each and see both sides of the American Ocean. With the 62 splitting in 2 groups after they bowed, with Kisame's group going west whilst Dracula's group is going to the east side. I won't lie, but you could easily take over any country you want, Star said. Izuku just waved her off. Too much paperwork. With him joking with Star and Stripe laughing too. But I don't want to, even if I can. There is no point. Then the 2 were joined with Gabriel on their night patrol in California. Groups Nomu ranking system sad face. Normal grade Nomus are low tier, elite grade Nomus are mid tier, night grade Nomus are upper tier, elite night grade Nomus are near high end, captain grade Nomus are high end, general grade Nomus are upper high end, commander grade Nomus are perfect tier, hashtag grade and hashtag grade Nomus are ultimate tier. Mikao team to Oklahoma. Mikao LV.47, Captain. 3-faced high-end Nomikakazu LV.11, Captain. 50 Lightning Draco LV.3, Captain. Trunk LV.2, Captain. High-end Nomu 3 near high-end Nomu LV.17, Elite Knight. 10 upper tier Nomu LV.26, Knight. 8 upper tier Nomu LV.6, Knight. Baru team to Kansas Baru LV.47, Captain. Haiden LV.5, Captain. 50 Poison Draco LV.3, Captain. 31 Dark Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 24 Gothic Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 20 Ant Soldiers LV.25, Elite Knight. Pain Team to Colorado Pain LV.34, Captain. Daedara LV.13, Captain. 50 Fire Draco LV.3, Captain. 4 Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.35, Elite Knight. 14 Vadianoi LV.28, Elite Knight. 46 Alkanost LV.24, Elite Knight. Igris Team to Nebraska Igris LV.32, Captain. Itachi LV.21, Captain. 50 Earth Draco LV.3, Captain. Tusk LV.25, Elite Knight. 6 Magicians LV.23, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc Bodyguards LV.10, Elite Knight. 33 Knight LV.3, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc LV, 20 Knight. Baruka Team to Iowa Baruka LV.31, Captain. Sasori LV.11, Captain. 50 Wind Draco LV.3, Captain. For Elder Vampire LV.2, Captain. Fluffy LV.36, Elite Knight. 10 Ice Elves LV.13, Elite Knight. 20 Ice Bears LV.13, Elite Knight. Golu LV.20, Knight. Lord of the Snow Golems 54 Snow Golem LV.1, Knight. Raphael Team to South Dakota Raphael LV.27, Captain. Orochimaru LV.20, Captain. Uriel LV.16, Captain. 50 Water Draco LV.3, Captain. Zadkiel LV.3, Captain. 7 Virtues LV.33, Elite Knight. 10 Winged Angels LV.29, Elite Knight. 28 8 Winged Angels LV.21, Elite Knight. 22 more are in Japan, and 1 with Zest 8 Throne Angels LV.12, Elite Knight. Conan Team to Alaska Conan LV.20, Captain. Fisher LV.16, Captain. 50 Serpent of Light LV.13, Captain. 50 Serpent of Darkness LV.13, Captain. Leshy LV.4, Captain. Starenstipe, Nijire, Shoko, and Heian has 1 each. 50 Darkness Draco LV.3, Captain. 50 Light Draco LV.3, Captain. 37 Rusalka LV.15, Elite Knight. Around USA 100 Darkness Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 100 Light Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 35 Power Angels LV.8, Elite Knight. 6 Winged 30 Cherub LV.29, Knight. 44 Winged Angels LV.26, Knight. Ocean Kasame LV.21, Captain. Dracula LV.20, Captain. 60 Naga LV.15, Knight. Towards the end of the night patrol at California, Izuku and Kathleen split up, with Kathleen being at the north side of California whilst Izuku was on the south, to be more precise, San Diego. He was leisurely flying using flight when something took his attention. A spear, to be more precise. Gabriel, can you stay on one of these building tops hidden? If I think it is who I think it is, I will need you outside of my shadow. Izuku spoke. Izuku caught the spear with his hand and crushed it. Sure, darling. Gabriel then hid herself on top of the building, with Izuku flying downwards to meet a man who has small smirk on his face. That man had a black compress shirt, baggy tan-colored trousers, with a black belt around the waist, and finally black martial art slippers. The man had green eyes and black hair reaching his ears, with him having a scar on the corner of his right lip. There was also a purple creature that looked like an overgrown worm going from his chest to it resting above his shoulders. Izuku recognized that man. The hero hunter Toji Figuro. You're the only man that is wanted in North and South America for killing 3 national rank heroes and 34 S-rank heroes. I see you have heard of me. Now will you become my 4th national ranker? Toji stated instead of asking, quirking an eyebrow. Why me? And why in San Diego instead of a different place? Izuku asked. Some people want you dead. and they are paying really good money for you head. Sighing, would you be so kind by telling me who I have to capture after I capture you? A smirk was the response. You will be dead anyways. It's a guy named Overhaul from Japan. Izuku's eyes minimally widened. Ah, thank you. At that moment of time, Izuku dodged a slash that from a chain that has a spearhead at the end. With that, Izuku jumped back. But for some reason, Izuku couldn't summon his shadows. I see you caught on. A smirk appeared on Toji's face. All of your shadow soldiers that are in your shadow can't escape. My quirk allows me to completely nullify one ability of my opponent for some time, with your shadows being the biggest cause for concern. However, Izuku smirked, as he still had hundreds of shadows out and about, awaiting his call. Whilst I love my shadows, I know I can defeat you. But first, let's get into a less populated area, shall we not? Izuku smiled, as Izuku rushed and kicked Hero Hunter in the side, making him fly towards the beach. Gabriel, can you join in 2 minutes? Izuku asked telepathically, with her agreeing readily. Now standing up, Toji stretched and blocked Izuku's slash from Samehada. With a 3-section staff that came out of the worm's mouth, it made a creator on the ground that can be compared to an all-might punch at 50%. Izuku jumped up, but to his surprise, Toji was behind him. However, there are hundreds of basketball-sized flying insects that tried attacking the monarch. Quickly activated Infinity, Izuku tried to block the inverted spear of heaven, but to his surprise, the spear nullified the Infinity, making Izuku become punctured on his shoulder, bypassing the cloak too. Being in a little shock, Toji pulled the spear back and punctured Izuku 4 times in the chest, and a final stab through the neck of Izuku, allowing the spear end to be seen at the back of Izuku's neck. But what shocked the bounty hunter was that even with the inverted spear of heaven through Izuku's neck, Izuku held on to Toji with him being punched back. The greenette went on his knees, coughing up blood, trying to use healer on himself, but he saw Toji inject himself with trigger. I never used this, but you are the hardest target to kill, Monarch. Now all of your powers are deactivated. Shit. Gabriel, help. Izuku barely dodged the playful cloud, with Izuku not being able to use any skills. How the fuck does his quirk work? The greenette couldn't help but think. The HP was lowering, and fatigue was increasing at a faster rate, holding pressure onto his throat, whilst hoping he can survive long enough. Fatigue. 86 HP. 3. 604/49. 490. A small smile appeared on his lips, seeing Gabriel coming over and sending multiple light spears at Toji. Darling, Gabriel shouted in worry. You will be all right. Izuku didn't know if she was trying to reassure herself or Izuku, but allowed Gabriel to start healing Izuku a bit. After the throat was closed, his weapons, one of them can bypass my Infinity. Now Gabriel was healing the 5 other punctures, but they will leave a scar until Izuku falls asleep. His quirk doesn't allow me to use any of my skills. Then Izuku saw that Toji came back with a weapon that Izuku doesn't want it to be tested on his shadows. So he pushed Gabriel away, having his left arm chopped off. Fuck! The split soul katana does what its name says. It splits the soul from the object, aka if it cut a shadow down, the shadow soldier dies. Haha. Sacrificing your arm so your precious shadow wouldn't actually die, Toji stated with some laughter. Izuku felt light. He began to understand. He could feel his skills slowly unlocking one by one, but a new skill is what he needed. A small smirk appeared on the bloody and punctured form of Izuku. Smoke screen. Alarm. New skill has been discovered. Skill. Smoke screen LV.1. Active. The 4th gift from All Might's predecessors. It produced smoke around the user to negate any vision and hearing to everyone bar your own. The higher the level, the denser the smoke screen becomes. 100 MP to activate, and 10 MP per second to make the mist expand. A mist was formed. Izuku could feel that the smoke was made up of water. He rushed in and continued on the attack, with Toji barely beginning to block attacks. Izuku sent out a couple of reds from gravity manipulation as he felt that skill being able to use. Seeing that the man was blocked, Izuku held him with Darkness Overlord, whilst Gabriel went behind the man and neck chopped him, knocking the man out. Thank you, Gabriel. You literally saved my life. I stumbled towards Toji to tie him up and collect all of the weapons for them not to get into anyone's hands. Item. Split Soul Katana, Rank SS. Item. Inverted Spear of Heaven, Rank SS. Item. Chain of 1,000 Miles, Rank S. Item. Playful Cloud, rank S. During this time, when Izuku was binding up Toji and collecting the weapons, Gabriel went towards the worm and killed it with her heel. Then she placed it in Izuku's inventory. Now Izuku stood up with a missing left arm, for stab wounds in his chest, one in his shoulder, and a partially healed scar on his neck. He only thought one thing: Tobi Zetsu, every shadow in Japan. Drop what you are doing and kill Overhaul. With that, Izuku kneeled down as his fatigue was 98. Japan. Tobi Zetsu, every shadow in Japan. Drop what you are doing and kill Overhaul. That was the order that Izuku Midoriya, otherwise known as their liege, spoke through his mind. Now Zetsu, Obito, 3 Leshy, Slimy, Beast, 22 8-Winged Angels, Luna and Donald got that order, so they silently left the shadows of the people they were assigned to and moved towards the base that Overhaul is using. Shadows in Japan. Donald LV.2, Night. Great Siberian Bison Luna LV.7, Night. White Tiger Boss 22 8-Winged Angels LV.21, Elite Night. Beast LV.3, Captain. High-End Nomu 3 Leshy LV.4, Captain. Zetsu LV.5, Captain. Slimy LV.22, Captain. High-End Nomu Tobi LV.32, Captain. It was getting dark, and now the 31 shadows met up in an abandoned building not that far from Overhaul's base to plan. Zetsu scouted and told that the 8 precepts of death. Overhaul and his left and right-hand man also was there. There was a problem, and that there was an old man in a comatose state, and a child who looked to be experimented who were there too. Shadows when Izuku commanded them to clear USA of monsters and gates. All shadows knew that if they will be at their level cap, that they will be promoted instantly. Their liege rarely does it as it strains his mind, but when Izuku reached intelligence 528, he can occasionally do some orders automatically. Now each group has to go to their state, or in some instances the rest of the states, with some taking 30 minutes and the rest 2 or 3 hours. If the group finished their state, they were commanded to go outwards from that state into the rest of the USA to the states that have less monsters. Mikao team to Oklahoma. Mikao LV.47, Captain. 3-faced high-end Nomu Kakazu LV.11, Captain. 50 Lightning Draco LV.3, Captain. Trunk LV.2, Captain. High-end Nomu 3 near high-end Nomu LV.17, Elite Knight. 10 upper tier Nomu LV.26, Knight. 8 upper tier Nomu LV.6, Knight. Mikao, the 3-faced Nomu that Izuku defeated with Star and Stripe on Eye Island, got his orders, and with the 73 shadow soldiers under his command traveled to Oklahoma. Getting there in just under 30 minutes, they saw the problem. The countryside that has mountains had monsters and a lot. If Mikao could have guessed then, over 500 monsters, from E rank to a rank, and his liege wanted every corpse and crystal. Now the highest-ranking Nomu in the army wanted to become a general, with 3 levels to go, and the knowledge that his liege will be proud of him, he set to work. He commanded the Lightning Dracos to surround Oklahoma, with a Nomu scattered in between them bar Trunk, with himself starting from the east, Trunk from the south, and Kakuzu from the north of Oklahoma. The 74 shadows began going closer and closer to the western side, as the east had less monsters loose. However, all of the shadows noticed one thing quickly: there are some replicas of some shadow soldiers in monster forms such as the vampires. It only took them a total of 5 hours for all monsters to be cleared. That included the gates, crystal collection, and killing of monsters that have escaped. Mikao grinned, seeing that he is a general now. His liege will sure be proud of him. Baru team to Kansas. Baru LV.47, Captain. Haydn LV.5, Captain. 50 Poison Draco LV.3, Captain. 31 Dark Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 24 Gothic Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 20 Ant Soldiers LV.25, Elite Knight. Kansas, a country 1.2 times bigger than Oklahoma, had 126 shadows, all under the command of Baru. The lovable gluttonous ant and his team only took just over 30 minutes to get to Kansas from California. The strategy was similar to the Oklahoma team, but with more shadows of a higher grade, they finished the whole of the state in 4 hours. Baru was having the time of his life. He was eating monster arms, heads, legs, torsos, but not the whole body, just parts. That is what he said to himself anyways. The ant captain realized that eating monsters whilst giving minor boons, they really give nothing compared to when he ate the slime Nomu or muscular. Now the ant can produce extra muscle to either protect himself or be faster and stronger, but Baru didn't even need to use it. Pain team to Colorado. Pain LV.34, Captain. Deidara LV.13, Captain. 50 Fire Draco LV.3, Captain. For Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.35, Elite Knight. 14 Vadianoi LV.28, Elite Knight. 46 Alcanost LV.24, Elite Knight. Payne's team only took 15 minutes to reach Colorado. On the way to that state, the group already had to deal with over 100 monsters from Utah. In Payne's opinion, the Alcanosts were more useful than the second-in-command, who he had to use the absorption part of his ability to reduce damage of the explosions. However, the strongest Akatsuki Shadow had shivers running down his spine seeing the seductive sinning vampires whining of not getting to touch their liege. In Colorado, Payne summoned the three-headed dog and a chimera bird for more support, as they had to deal with giants running rampant in the Grand Mesa. But at the end of the 4 hours, Payne could only smirk seeing that he finally became a general. He finally could speak to his liege. Payne and his team finished dealing with everything in Colorado in just 30 minutes, with some shadows going to Wyoming and the others to New Mexico. Igris team to Nebraska. Igris LV.32, Captain. Itachi LV.21, Captain. 50 Earth Draco LV.3, Captain. Tusk LV.25, Elite Knight. 6 Magicians LV.23, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc Bodyguards LV.10, Elite Knight. 33 Knight LV.3, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc LV.20 Knight. The first Knight level Shadows team only took 45 minutes to arrive at their destination. Igris had fire in his eyes, but he could only sense over 300 monsters on the loose but well over 50 gates yet to be closed. Igris not only wanted to beat Baruka but be closer to his beloved liege with his strength. The magicians easily showed the rest of the group where each monster was, as some of the monsters that escaped could travel underground. Baruka team to Iowa. Baruka LV.31, Captain. Sasori LV.11, Captain. 50 Wind Draco LV.3, Captain. For Elder Vampire LV.2, Captain. Fluffy LV.36, Elite Knight. 10 Ice Elves LV.13, Elite Knight. 20 Ice Bears LV.13, Elite Knight. Golu LV.20, Knight. Lord of the Snow Golems 54 Snow Golem LV.1, Knight. Baruka, an Ice Elf that Izuku defeated in his first Red Gate that Heian also attended, was leading 141 Shadow Soldiers to a small state named Iowa. Whilst it may have taken them over an hour to get there, they finished getting rid of the monsters and gates in less than 2 hours. Now Baruka and Sasori split the group in two, with Baruka heading to Minnesota and Wisconsin, while Sasori went to Illinois then Indiana. Raphael team to South Dakota. Raphael LV.27, Captain. Orochimaru LV.20, Captain. Uriel LV.16, Captain. 50 Water Draco LV.3, Captain. Satkiel LV.3, Captain. 7 Virtues LV.33, Elite Knight. 10 Winged Angels LV.29, Elite Knight. 28 8-Winged Angels LV.21, Elite Knight. 8 Throne Angels LV.12, Elite Knight. The second most powerful angel in Izuku's army, Raphael, was in command of his younger brother Uriel and Orochimaru, with both of them being significantly smarter than himself. So after the hour journey to South Dakota, he asked the two shadows produce a plan that will be executed. It only took 3 hours to finish dealing with everything in South Dakota, so the group split into 3. With Orochimaru, some Dracos and the 8 Winged Angels went to Wyoming. Uriel took some of the Dracos, the Thrones, and Sadkiel with him to North Dakota. Finally, Raphael went towards Montana with the rest of the Dracos and the 10 Winged Angels, with the other 2 groups heading to that state after dealing with their own. Conan team to Alaska. Conan LV.20, Captain. Fisher LV.16, Captain. 50 Serpent of Light LV.13, Captain. 50 Serpent of Darkness LV.13, Captain. Leshy LV.4, Captain. 50 Darkness Draco LV.3, Captain. 50 Light Draco LV.3, Captain. 37 Rusalka LV.15, Elite Knight. Took Conan and her group nearly 3 hours to reach Alaska. Strait of the Bat. Conan made the Dracos deal with the islands that Alaska held. This left her with Fisher, the Serpents, Aleshi, and the Rusalkas under her command. Conan made the Serpents to surround Alaska and go in eliminating all of the foes, with Leshy starting from the south, Fisher from the north, Rusalka from the east and herself from the west. Conan really hoped that she could upgrade to the general rank so she can finally speak to her liege. She remembered the fight and the last wish to be reborn as a shadow soldier, and her thoughts also turned out to be true. Only the loyalties changed. So instead of hearing the female voice saying to protect the place where she battled her liege and her liege's girlfriend, her mind tells her to protect and listen to Izuku. Conan's own personality didn't change, as she still loves playing with cuddly things or other fluffy shadows such as the animal look-alike shadows. The team that was in Alaska took nearly 7 hours to finish everything. They would have finished in over 11 hours if some of the other shadows from different states hadn't helped. Now Conan and the shadow soldiers that came to help her and her team are returning to Izuku. Around USA, 100 Darkness Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 100 Light Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 35 Power, Angels LV.8, Elite Knight. 6-Winged 30 Cherub LV.29, Knight. 44 Winged Angels LV.26, Knight. The rest of the states were done by this group doing the reverse strategy compared to the other shadow groups. The shadow of Captain rank would expand spread out further and further from each other, with the Elite Knight and Knight filling the gaps and working together to defeat some monsters. California was cleared in less than an hour, as it was thanks to Star and Stripe that the gates in California have been dealt quickly. Then they continued to Arizona, to Oregon, and so forth. This group eventually joined with other shadows from other groups. The west side of America was cleared in a total of 6 hours, with all shadows going eastwards and some other shadow soldiers going to Alaska. Then one small group of hatchlings went towards Hawaii to deal with some monsters there. However, the longest state was Texas, that was completed after 8 hours due thanks to some of the teams from Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado heading there. The eastern side of the United States was easier to complete for the shadows, as more heroes were there compared to the west side. More gates have been closed. Overall, it took all of the shadows 6 hours to complete that side, as Gunamain took pretty long. Ocean. Kisame LV.21, Captain. Dracula LV.20, Captain. 60 Naga LV.15, Knight. The oceans were peaceful mostly. Dracula, who took 30 Naga to the west side, didn't encounter any monsters. But that group had to deal with some monsters in Oregon beaches. Kisame and his team took just over 4 hours to the east side. They have decided to go from the bottom of Texas up, eventually meeting with some other shadows in Maine. However, Kisame and the Naga had to deal with some oceanic monsters that broke from a gate in South Carolina. Fight against Toji wished the shadows. They felt their liege calling for help, but the shadows that stayed in Izuku's shadow couldn't escape. The 8 Dragons commanders ordered all of the shadows as their liege couldn't communicate with them. Lo Lu spoke telepathically. Can anyone help our liege? His opponent Quirk doesn't allow us to leave our liege's shadow. Baru spoke. Who is the scum that is fighting our magnificent liege? And can I kill him? Mizuchi spoke. We are lucky that our liege asked at least Gabriel to stay on the rooftop. Wait, what? The water dragon sounded panicked. That worthless piece of human has a weapon that can go through all of our liege's defense and has struck our liege in the neck. Aurora spoke with worry. But every shadow was trying to get out of Izuku's shadow to help Izuku. Igris spoke in his deep tone. We are coming. I estimate 15 minutes for my team. Jinx in her seductive voice spoke. Raphael, we need your healing. Silence. The shadows who were not with Izuku began to worry as none of the dragon commanders spoke a word. My gosh, that human has a weapon that can kill us for good. Acnologia spoke in a hushed whisper. Our liege sacrificed his arm to save Gabriel. I will arrive in 10 minutes. I am flying as fast as I can. Raphael spoke, then he commanded. The angel who is with Zest and Leshy who is with Star and Stipe, get them towards our liege. The voice of Raphael whilst commanding was filled with worry. Yes, Lord Raphael. An 8-winged angel and a Leshy spoke as they materialized near both mentioned heroes. But to their surprise, the two were already rushing towards Izuku's location. Lord Raphael, both of them are already on their way. Zest should be arriving in 1 minute. Then the Leshy spoke. Star will be arriving in 10 minutes. Back with Izuku. After the command he gave to the shadow soldiers that are located in Japan, Izuku kneeled down and coughed up some blood, with Gabriel trying to heal Izuku. Tears were coming from the angel's face, with Izuku lifting his remaining arm to wipe the tears that came from Gabriel's face. Don't cry, Tenchi. I will be all right. A small smile came on Izuku's face, not knowing if he might actually fully recover or not. More tears came from Gabriel's eyes, seeing her lover in this state. Her eyes turned murderous towards the tied and unconscious body of Toji, with her trying to walk towards him. However, Izuku gently grabbed Gabriel's hand. "It is not worth it," Izuku muttered, coughing up more blood, as using healer allowed some of his stab wounds so start closing up. At that moment, people began to arrive, and they gasped seeing what happened. It was some of the heroes from Star and Stripe Agency that included Zest. "Izuku," she whispered, seeing the greenette missing an arm, with multiple body punctures, with the woman going towards him. "What happened?" she asked gently, while some of the other heroes were trying to heal Izuku up and take the unconscious form of Toji to prison. However, as the fight was big and noisy, not only were the heroes who came, but reporters too. When the camera zoomed into Izuku, who was standing up from his kneeling position with a missing arm, all bloodied with 4 stab wounds on his chest and arm, with a scar on his neck, everyone was horrified. But when the camera zoomed out, the infamous Toi Figuro, a national-level villain, was tied up. Then from all around them, shadow soldiers were coming back, with Raphael landing just behind Izuku, and with him began to heal up the standing form of Izuku Midoriya. Back with Izuku, he was coughing up the excess blood as his wounds were healed thanks to Raphael. "Thank you, Raphael," Izuku spoke with a raspy whisper. However, much to Izuku's surprise, Raphael replied gently with a smile. "Worry not, my liege. I'll always stand by your side. I am glad you are better now." Raphael didn't use his commanding voice, but a gentler one, as he, as all of the other shadow soldiers, respected Izuku the most. The healers who tried to heal Izuku moved away, knowing who Raphael is, the best healer in Izuku's shadow army. Izuku's eyes became a little moist. "I am glad you became a general, Raphael. We can finally talk." The greenette loved his shadows as if they were his children. A weird way of thinking, but with the exception of Gabriel, who was his lover, they were all children in the eyes of Izuku. "We should celebrate when the shitstorm is over," he chuckled. Raphael only beamed in happiness. "Thank you, my liege. However, your arm, I cannot heal it. It's as the soul is missing of your arm." It was Gabriel who spoke in a whisper. "It was a sword who cut of Darling's arm. That sword could have permanently killed us." A shudder run through her spine, but other shadows too. Pain materialized near with him too, speaking. "I am glad you are better, my liege. All of us were worried that our mental connection was lost." Pain's voice sounded mature with some gruffness, but not the gruffness one gets with age. Izuku smiled weakly. "I am happy you are a general too, Pain. Let's all talk later. As you can see, we have more people here." With a nod, every shadow who was coming from around USA went into Izuku's shadow, to the exception of Gabriel, Raphael, and Pain. Zest in the meantime was having her mouth open. She remembered when Izuku introduced Gabriel and her rank during the gate she did when she taught Izuku's group with weapons. 2 more general level shadows? They are mid to high national level, and I am pretty sure they were captain level with half a dozen or so. Zest's mind was in a whirlwind of thoughts, but she hugged Izuku after everything bar his left arm was healed. "I am glad you are okay," Izuku groaned. "You were hugging me too tightly, Zest." Izuku chuckled, wrapping his remaining arm around the hero. After 20 seconds, the two broke the embrace when suddenly Kathleen was seen shooting straight for Izuku. Izuku gulped slightly, seeing the woman going for a bear hug, and placed his right hand into a hugging position. The number 1 hero gasped and hugged Izuku straight into her chest while some tears escaped her eyes. "Where's that fucker? Can I kill him?" she asked as her protective nature of the older sister began showing. Izuku ignored Gabriel, Raphael, and Pain, who nodded to Kathleen's amazing idea, with him sighing. "Toi Figuro is captured. The other heroes and police are taking him to prison." Izuku pointed his head to the unconscious form of Toji. "Toji? You mean that the Toi Figuro, who is the high-ranking hero bounty hunter?" Izuku just gave a nod, and Star and Stripe just hugged Izuku tighter. "I am glad you won and are safe. Although, what are you doing about your arm?" she asked, worried. "I have a way." Izuku smiled lightly as he summoned a bottle from his inventory and began drinking it. Holy Elixir of Healing 4 of 6 item class. S-type. Consumable, a mysterious potion that can cure and disease and heal everything from a missing limb to a failing heart. The effect will only take place when the entire bottle has been consumed, and life energy will be given once again. Then, to everyone's surprise, the arm who Raphael couldn't regrow began forming, and all scars that would be gone by the next day were gone. It only took 30 seconds for Izuku to look as good as new, if you ignore his clothes that had puncture and slash marks. Fuck, this feels so good. Izuku moaned out, feeling his body return to the condition before the battle. The wording Izuku used can be interpreted in many different ways. Pain and Raphael face-palmed chuckling. Gabriel and Zest both had blushes hearing the moan. Finally, Star and Stripe only chuckled at her younger brother figure. So, do you have many of these potions? Kathleen asked. Izuku shook his head and spoke quietly. Only 4 left. These potions heal the soul too. Compared to me and my shadows, healing that only heals the body. The reporters came rushing towards Izuku after they got out of the shock. Monarch? What happened here? Then another question. You have captured Toi Figuro, a wanted criminal in both North and South America. Your thoughts? Izuku rose his hand up to quiet the reporters down. I was patrolling the south side of California when a spear was thrown at me, so I checked who threw it and it was Toi Figuro. We battled and at the end I won. His quirk was pretty annoying, but I am glad we fought on the beach instead of the city as he originally wanted. He explained quickly. Another reporter asked, why didn't your shadows help? I sent them all out around the USA to kill of all monsters that have broken out of the gates and to clear gates. I only had Gabriel with me. Izuku spoke, but telepathically he said to his shadows, I am sorry guys, but I won't tell that you were here. The reason is because if someone breaks Toji out and gives him trigger, we would be in bigger trouble. The shadows agreed, all thinking that the thinking of their liege was correct. Star and Stripe came towards Izuku and spoke to the reporters. Toi Figuro will be heading to jail now, and if you wouldn't mind, we will be taking our leave. Izuku whispered to Kathleen, want to do something crazy? With her giving a nod, Izuku spoke. Lolu, come forth. With that, a white dragon with 4 white wings that had black shadow mist coming from her wings. The dragon stood at a height of a length of 360 meters, with her height being around 50 meters. Let's get on. With that, Izuku used gravity manipulation to pull himself. Zest, Star, and Stripe whisked. Gabriel flew up, with Pain and Raphael going back to Izuku's shadow. Let's go, Lolu. With that, the dragon who can control light flew off towards the agency of Star and Stripe. What the hell? We know that you had dragons, but not big as these. Zest shouted as she was hugging Izuku's chest for her dear life. Her body was flailing in the air whilst Lolu flew. Kathleen only laughed as she stood normally atop of Lolu. Instead of jets, a dragon can be a good alternative. She began mumble in excitement. Gabriel was sitting by Izuku with her head on Izuku's shoulder. This was a tiring day. Isn't it nighttime already in Japan? Izuku nodded. Yeah, it's Saturday. I still have to go to France after this. Izuku smiled, knowing what his plan is going to be. It was time for Izuku and Kathleen to finish their patrol anyways. Back in Japan shadows, nearly everyone was asleep. Some guards were patrolling, but that was it. Toby, as the de facto leader, ordered every shadow present. Our job is to be stealthy. We are getting revenge for our liege, but we don't want him to face consequences of our actions. Every shadow nodded. Angels, you will use your magic to kill of the guards. I will deal with Overhaul. Slimy, you will have to deal with chronostasis. Donald and Luna will be your backup because of his quirk. Zetsu, as you can go underground. Mimic is your target. Beast and the Leshy will deal with the 8 precepts of death. Zetsu make clones to help Beast, and Leshy's defeated them all quickly. Remember, we need them dead as fast as possible. The angels will continue killing of the grunts. Then Toby took a breath. Then we will have to clean up the base, look for anything, and inform our liege of the little girl and the old man. With that, the shadows acted. Surrounding the base, the shadow soldiers moved through the shadows of the night, with the angels killing the guards quickly and efficiently, then placing the bodies in the shared inventory. Zetsu already created over 100 clones to help the angels kill of all of the grunts that numbered over 200. Whilst that was happening, Zetsu himself went towards Mimic, a small black creature with a white mask that had stitches at the front and 2 holes on the side. The general manager, who is also a B-rank villain, was in his room reading a book when his head was eaten by Zetsu, killing of the villain. Zetsu didn't have gluttony like Baru, but he could digest humans, gaining a fraction more power, with the shadow placing the half-eaten body of Mimin in the shared inventory. Slimy with Donal and Luna traveled towards Chronostasis, another B-rank villain who had arrow-shaped as hair. He was sleeping when he felt something. Waking up, he instantly used his hair to slow down Slimy, but when he was about to shout something, the slime covered the villain's mouth, suffocating him. Donald and Luna nodded at Slimy and went towards the other grunts, not needing to help Slimy anymore. With that, Chronostasis' body was placed into the shared inventory. The 8 bullets, comprised of 7 C-rank villains and 1 B-rank villain, were in their private quarters. Beast and the Leshy silently emerged from the shadows. The Nomu quickly snapped Rikia Katsukame's neck, whilst the Leshy used their with manipulation to stab Kendo Rappa, Didoro Sakaki, Hijiki Tengai, and Sorimitsu Tabe in the heart. Yu Hojo quickly crystallized his body, but Beast quickly used his hand to pierce Yu's body, killing him. Shin Nemoto and Toya Setsuno stood back to back, but the Quirk's confession and larceny were useless, so they decided to inform others, but sadly for them they couldn't. 2 Leshy extended their arms and killed them by piercing them. All of the bodies were placed in the shared inventory whilst the 4 started to clean up the mess they made. Toby materialized behind Overhaul, and with a kunai, he slashed Overhaul's neck, or tried to at least. Overhaul was considered a B-rank villain, but his actual rank is A rank. However, the target on capturing him was of an S rank due to the quirk-canceling bullets. Kai transformed his arm to make a metal spike, but to his surprise, Toby used permeation to make his hand go through Overhaul's and cut his neck. Then with his hand he stabbed the leader in the heart. With that, Toby killed the man who sanctioned the murder of his liege. Now he had to clean up, as he placed Overhaul's body in the shared inventory. One of the angels found a laboratory, with it holding a table used for experimentation. It found 5 bullets in one case that, if the angel guessed right, could destroy a quirk factor. The child was still sleeping peacefully, so one of the angels, knowing the official rate of the base will be in around 30 hours, summoned food from the shared inventory and left it there. The 8-winged angel also made sure that the child had everything it needed to survive over a day alone, not knowing that the small child saw it come in and place more food than she ever got and left, with the child leaving her bed to see that her room not only was tidied up, but also had access to the bathroom, more water and some toys. "Thank you, Angel," she whispered as she headed back to bed with a bunny toy. The old man was left in his comatose state, but the angels made sure there was no life-threatening injuries on the man and made sure his equipment would continue to work. The angels continued to kill of the grunts, but also made sure that there was no cameras as they cleaned up the bodies. Overall, the shadow soldiers dealt with Shai Hasaikai in less than 20 minutes, leaving it spotless and without evidence they were there, with all of them being happy as they got revenge for their liege as they returned to their respective tasks or humans they were tasked to protect. Izuku just left the Dragon Gate with Gabriel. However, to his surprise, he wasn't on the Himalayan mountains, but in a place where the skies were purple. "Tenchi, where are we?" Izuku asked his girlfriend. "I have no idea, darling. This doesn't feel like human world," Gabriel replied. So the two decided to leisurely fly until 4 beings levitated in front of Duo only 30 minutes later. Lucifer, Beelzebub, Leviathan, and Asmodeus all were floating in front of the 2 beings that came out of nowhere. "Names and tell why you are in hell?" the leader asked. Izuku quirked an eyebrow. "I am Izuku, and this is my girlfriend Gabriel. Why are we in hell?" Gabriel nodded, also having her head tilted. "I wonder that too, darling. Although they feel like the demons we faced not long ago, but not the same." Leviathan, the only female of the 4, spoke. "Gabriel, why do you not look like an angel but a fallen angel?" Both Gabriel and Izuku blinked. "There are actual angels? And not monsters from gates?" With a lazy rising of an eyebrow, Asmodeus asked. "What are the gates you speak of?" Izuku spoke. "There are portals to another world or dungeons that you can pass into by a gate. They appeared on Earth just 2 months ago. But who are you for?" With a mock bow, Lucifer began introducing himself. "Where are my manners? I am Lucifer. This lady is Leviathan. The one with fly wings is Beelzebub. Finally, the lazy on is Asmodeus." Izuku and Gabriel nodded. "Nice meeting you. Although, do you know of how we can get back to Earth?" Leviathan shook her head. "It seems you have come to a different plane of existence. Our Earth isn't as advanced as yours seems to be, by comparing your clothes or even having powers." She licked her lips. Gabriel and Izuku looked at each other, then at the 4 devils and back at each other. "I guess it was nice meeting the 4. We will be going or trying to leave." With that, Izuku used Kamui to teleport outside of hell somehow. Leviathan pouted. "I hoped he could have stayed. It would have been so much fun breaking him." She licked her lips. Beelzebub snorted. "He would have folded you in too. Did you not feel the army he is hiding in his shadow?" Lucifer nodded. "I am glad we didn't have to fight, although I am more curious about what happened with Gabriel, as she was an exact replica of the angel Gabriel, but smaller breasts." The final devil nodded. I agree. She was 106 instead of our Gabriel's 90. The two other males nodded with a perverted smile, whilst Leviathan was brooding of not having a play toy. With everyone on Lolu, Izuku, Gabriel, Kathleen, and Zest continued to fly on Lolu for another 10 minutes when the Dragon Commander lowered herself down. As she touched the ground, the four jumped off with Zest kissing the ground. I missed you, Earth. The three others chuckled lightly seeing the A-rank hero hugging the ground. It might have been because of her quirk allowing her to use Earth, but the #1 hero of America asked her in turn, I am curious why we are here, Izuku? Izuku smiled gently. Whilst he was healed by Raphael and the potion, the Greenette had a busy weekend, and with his mental fatigue rising gradually, he faked feeling better expertly. Last Sunday he came back from a national level gate that his system gave him, that the world believes was an S rank. Instantly he had to deal with his dad's death. Then he took down the HPSC and rebuilt a new one with All Might, the Japanese president, and the head of the police. This was both Monday and Tuesday. During this time, he saw his father's dead body the day after the gate and had to deal with the supernatural. Wednesday, not only he took his classmates to a gate and finally have a contract signed. Thursday was his father's fake funeral and entertaining the attendees. Then the next day after he is patrolling in USA, with it being Saturday early night in Japan. During the free time, he not only sent out shadows to patrol Japan for villains, but also had the four-winged angels and cherubs do paperwork for the criminals caught and so forth, and also shadows were sent to take down gates. So yes, this week Izuku had was one of the busiest and mentally exhausting. Because of this. With that, over 1,000 bodies of monsters were placed out of the inventory. These are B rank and A rank monsters my shadows killed from the USA, and a minority were from Japan. I also have over 6,000 monsters from E to C rank in my inventory. Gabriel chuckled seeing the two heroines' gob-smacked expressions. I just needed to arise them, and I didn't want to deal with reporters. That is why I wanted to leave. Izuku spoke with rubbing left arm and chuckled. Zest nodded and spoke teasingly. You know that you will have more reporters on your back from capturing Toji and having Lolu fly us out. Oh, and don't mention about how you cleared all of USA of monsters for at least a week, where the heroes will have a lighter time clearing new dungeons. Most are aware that you have dragons, as everyone saw your army on MT Everest. Kathleen spoke gently, seeing Izuku and Gabriel swept drop. Neither of them realized that bit was recorded. However, Star and Stripe was thankful that all of the monsters have been cleared. Like Zest was thinking, she had the same thought, that it will be easier to oversee, as gates are occurring fractionally faster each week. The monarch just sighed. Before that, Izuku used his eyes to point at Zest, who was looking at the corpses. Gabriel and Kathleen quickly understood and nodded, even if Gabriel reluctantly nodded. Giving a nod back to the two, Izuku spoke, Zest, I think it is time for me to tell you my quirk. The demon-looking woman rose her eyebrow in surprise, but spoke, You don't have to if you don't want to. Izuku smiled as he spoke. My quirk is what I call a system. It is like a video game RPG. I level up, add points to my stats, got a job being Shadow Monarch. I earn so-called skills such as Fireball from quests, pure randomness, or if a certain requirement is met. This is what the Greenette told Kathleen too. It is because of my job title I can arise shadow soldiers from monster corpses, as you saw in the High Orc dungeon. But some other skills are an inventory system where I hid the monsters and have this. Izuku summoned a picnic table and some breakfast as he was hungry too. I still don't know everything, like who is the true creator of the system, as I thought it was the Stone Angel, but apparently it's the Almighty Creator. Everyone sat down around the table with them listening or eating. Zest had her eyes widen. Izuku had a more serious face on. Additionally, I failed to mention it to you, Kathy, but only Gabriel, Rumi, and Nijire know, as I only found out recently. The gates, they are armies that are slowly entering onto Earth. During the gate where stone statues were the enemy, I was receiving memories, that's why I couldn't move. There were monarchs and rulers fighting each other. However, what I still don't understand is why they fought each other and why Ashbourne, a monarch, was fighting against the rulers then some monarchs. Izuku sighed. That was also the reason why I found that gate. The 17-year-old produced a key. Originally I could open gates, but after the report of the Jeju S-rank gate was the first natural gate, the rest is history. Questions? Izuku drank some tea. Kathleen asked, So the 9 groups are the monarch's armies and one being the ruler armies most likely? Izuku nodded. I am aware that rulers are in command of the angel type. Gabriel here is an example. Gabriel just nodded but was thinking. The other types such as beasts, demons, dragons, giants, humanoid, insect, and snowfolk most likely have a monarch controlling them, but the undead group is what I am uncertain about. The memories said that Ashborn was the monarch of death. Izuku also failed to mention that the memories were Ashborn's, but that he inherited his power, so most likely someone else is in control of the undead. So Earth most likely will be a war zone whenever the first so-called monarch decide to come down, or even the rulers? Gabriel questioned with a hum. Most likely, that is why I am increasing my shadow soldier numbers. Izuku spoke as he started to eat a sandwich. I won't mention it to either of my superiors. We need to find out more about this before we can inform others about it. Kathleen stated, with Izuku nodding in agreement. Zest asked in an uncertain tone, "Why did you say it all to me? Like everything?" Don't get her wrong, she was thankful for the inclusion, but Zest not only was the weakest being a rank as the three others were national ranked, but it was by pure luck that she met up with Izuku. To her surprise, it was Kathleen who spoke. "You will be going to Japan till the New Year, Zest. I have asked Izuku to help you become an S-rank hero, but you can also help him with gates and patrolling." That was the plan Izuku spoke off with Nizu after coming back from America, that the number 1 hero orchestrated. Firstly was a trial period that Zest didn't know she would have by teaching 10 students for a week. That is what Nizu asked for, and Zest did splendidly. Gabriel nodded. That is the least Darling and me could do after you helped greatly during the stone statue gate. The angel didn't like other women going for her darling's heart, but she did respect the woman who risked her life for her darling. So what do you say, Zest? Do you want to come to Japan with me and Gabriel? Izuku asked after he drank some tea. Some red was seen on Zest's ears as she spoke. Only if I can train to become a teacher too. I did enjoy teaching the group for weapon practice. And secretly she wished that she could become closer to Izuku. Izuku smiled warmly. That can easily be arranged. He finished speaking as he took a sandwich to his mouth. And if you want, you can come with me and Gabriel after we finish the paperwork. We have to go to France first, then go to Denmark quickly too. Gabriel just nodded. Zest bowed her head. Thank you for this opportunity. I promise I will not disappoint, Sensei, with a teasing tone at the end, with Gabriel giving her a stink eye, whilst Kathleen was laughing wholeheartedly. Now the monarch was idly eating and resting to reduce his fatigue as he finally looked at his notifications, whilst the three women talked. You leveled up X12. Skill. Infinity leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. Skill. Darkness Overlord leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3. Skill. Hand-to-hand Expert leveled up from LV.5 to LV.6. Well done for surpassing level 200. Now you low mid-international level hero. You are officially the strongest human. However, there are many of the supernatural that can easily trump you, so beware. Due to you surpassing level 200, you will gain 3 rewards similar to how you got 1 at level 50, 100 and 150. Rewards: Reward 1, increase of HP and MP per level and point reward 2, plus 50 additional points reward 3, plus 200 spaces for shadow extraction and save shadow reward 4, plus 50 levels to 1 shadow soldier. Izuku had his eyes widen fractionally and thought, is it because of the creator that I am given these rewards? Then Izuku thought, accept reward 1. Reward 1. Increase of HP and MP per level, and point HP will increase by 300 per level and 80 per vitality point. MP will increase by 80 MP per level and 50 per intelligence point. The greenette smiled internally, seeing the two that as he is level 202, the reward 1 was already integrated. Accept reward 3. He thought leaving the reward 2 for later. Reward 3. Plus 200 spaces for shadow extraction and save shadow extraction. LV.2. 2085/4011, 2085/4211 save shadow. LV.3. 2085/3207, 2085/3407. I have more than enough spaces for all these monsters and the extra ones I occasionally collect from Japanese gates, Izuku mused. Whilst there was over 1,000 monsters in the pile he took out not that long ago, nearly 100 of them were monsters from Japan he collected. Accept reward 2, and place 30 into sense, 10 in intelligence and 10 in agility. Izuku also saw that his shadow save and extraction limit increased from the 10 points in intelligence. Reward 2, plus 50 additional points agility, 367 greater than 377 sense, 377 greater than 407 intelligence, 540 greater than 550. The conversation between the three girls stopped as they felt Izuku becoming stronger. Gabriel only smirked, having a hint of what her darling was doing now. Accept reward 4 and give it to Gabriel. Izuku smirked back at Gabriel, who had her eyes widened fractionally. Although he spoke to every shadow bar Gabriel through the mind link they shared. I am sorry that I didn't use it on any of you guys. I am hoping to lift up Gabriel's spirit as you all saw her anger at Toji. The shadows agreed nonetheless, whilst all of them wanted the increase of the levels. After some thinking, they realized that this was the best idea. One reason was that Gabriel was smaller in size compared to the dragons, and secondly, all of them were scared of an angry Gabriel. Reward 4. Plus 50 levels to 1 Shadow Soldier Gabriel LV.36. General. Gabriel LV.26. Commander. Well done for becoming the third most powerful in the army, Tenchi. Izuku winked at her. Sure, this may be a cheat, but Izuku has to make sure that his army strongest also grows stronger. Gabriel had her eyes widened, but a small smile appeared. Kathleen and Zest looked lost at the secret exchange of the two, but did realize that Gabriel's power is higher than Star and Stripes, as before the two were on the same level before. The only thing that visibly changed in Gabriel was her wings becoming slightly larger. I thank you, darling, she said in a whisper as she hugged Izuku's chest. Then under her breath, so the other two didn't hear, I promise to become the strongest in the army and be worthy as your second in command and your lover. Izuku patted her head gently. Izuku mentally replied, you are already strong enough, and I do love you, Tenchi. Then out loud he began to explain, I have surpassed level 200 in the system, and I get rewards every 50 levels. This time I got an additional 50 points for my stats, 200 more spaces for my shadow soldiers, and being able to give one shadow soldier 50 levels. Zest was about to faint whilst Kathleen just laughed, clutching her sides. I won't lie, but I already gave up on understanding your quirk, Izuku, so nothing will surprise me. Heck, if you tell me that all of the mythological legends and myths were real, I would believe you, Kathleen stated, but Izuku and Gabriel chuckled nervously. I sometimes question if my luck is in the negatives, she grumbled. I won't ask about them, but the number one hero just gave up on understanding Izuku and the world there, and then, just tell me, will they be a problem or not? Izuku shook his head. They are not, so don't worry. And if they will be, we could deal with them, he said with some playful banter. To lighten the topic, Izuku joked, who knows, we could become god slayers. Then Gabriel and Kathleen joined in, laughing. Zest looked so lost and also about to pass out from information overload that her head hit table and spoke gently. Information overload. With twirls in her eyes, Izuku just chuckled and went up the monster corpses. Arise. And then all 1,000 shadows began coming from the bodies, all bowing or kneeling. I am happy to have you all. The shadows that all stood in front of the Izuku had been upgraded to fit the shadow level of the same shadow soldier species. Like new High Orc shadows became the same level as the old High Orc shadows. Now, with 1,242 more shadow spaces filled, Izuku had a small smile. The rest of the bodies will be used to get more gold, and the bodies in front of Izuku too. Oh, is that the worm that Toji had? Izuku asked. Gabriel nodded to herself. It tried running away, and it didn't feel like a human, so I killed it. Izuku shook his head in fondness. Izuku smiled as the new shadows went into his shadow, as he asked, Hey Kathy, does your government want to buy any corpses? Do you have any powerful monster corpses? They only wanted ones that are high A and upwards, the hero explained. So Izuku took all corpses bar the arch-liches, queen of poisonous flies, a centaur, and the 10-winged angel corpses. These 4 are high A to low S rank monsters. The others are mid-A rank and lower. Izuku explained, with Izuku getting a deal with Kathleen that she will buy them from Izuku in exchange for cash. The Greenette sold all of the other corpses, getting over 500 billion gold, with only the 4 corpses remaining in his inventory. Then Izuku saw that more corpses were added. Shai Hasaikai. He thought as he ignored it at that moment of time. As the 4 continued to sit, Izuku produced 2 objects, a ring and a container with 5 bullets. Zest asked, What are those 2, Izuku? These are what my shadows found. Izuku passed the 2 objects around. The bullets are quirk-destroying bullets, and the ring is called Braham's ring. He mused, looking at their information the system gave him, although he was curious how his soldiers found the ring. Item: quirk-destroying bullet, X5, item class, S-type, Debuff a bullet when hit an opponent. It will destroy the quirk factor of that person, leaving them quirkless. This works on every quirk type including mutation, transformation, emission, and accumulation quirks. Each bullet is a one-time use. Item: Braham's Ring. Item class: S-type. Accessory/sealing plus 20% protection against mental attacks. Braham's Ring is a modified ring that can seal one entity no matter how strong they are. The entity can be released, but the owner can control how much power can be given to the sealed entity. However, the entity sealed must give its consent. Quirk destroying bullets? So they have done it. Gabriel asked with a knowing tone that the two American heroes didn't pay attention to, but it also could be interpreted in two separate ways. One way that only Izuku and Gabriel knew was that the elimination of a Yakuza group was successful. The other option was what the two heroines thought, that the group successfully produced bullets to destroy quirks. Yes, they did. I will have a report from Toby later today. Izuku hummed. Although the raid is less than 30 hours, I think we can deal with everything before then. Gabriel nodded. I agree, darling. France and Denmark shouldn't take that long. However, she did remember something. What about the Russian S-rank gate, darling? Do you know if they completed it? Kathleen broke out of her stupor looking at the bullets. You haven't heard? They have failed. It was on the news less than 2 days ago. However, when she talked about the Russians failing, a somber tone was used. Izuku and Gabriel looked at Kathleen, then at each other, then at Kathleen, and had sweat dropped. We don't really pay attention to the news, we should try keeping up. With Gabriel nodding, the #1 hero of America facepalmed. Figures. This week was hectic for you. She spoke in a sympathetic tone. Then she began explaining. Valdemir and Team Alpha, a group of 12 S-ranks, went into the S-rank gate. A couple hours later, a singular S-rank was carrying an unconscious Vladimir on her back. What she said was that it was poisonous, really poisonous. Russia has 15 S-rank heroes surrounding it with over 70 A-rank heroes. Poland sent 2 S-ranks and 10 A-ranks. China sent 3 S-ranks and 20 A-ranks. Finland has sent their S-rank hero who specializes in barriers, and Belarus sent an S-rank hero and 10 A-rank heroes, with other Eastern European nations sending more ranks just in case. The gate will be opening sometime in the next 16 hours, and they have no way of protecting themselves against poison. Even Vladimir's quirk was useless. Vladimir and the S-rank who survived are in a medically induced coma at the moment. She explained, with Izuku and Gabriel having their eyes widen fractionally. I won't lie, but I thought the two of you already knew. As from what I was told, the Russians sent a message to your Hero and Hunter Association. Izuku sighed. We haven't received anything. As you are aware, All Might is the president of the Hero and Hunter Association, and even with help there is too much paperwork to do. Although Foreign Relationship Officer, which at the moment is Sir Knight, I should have gotten the call. Doesn't he dislike you, or was it only Mirio? The strongest angel asked. Honestly, I have no idea. The only male side. Baru, apparently one of the Yakuza members, have a truth quirk. After you eat him, if the situation is right, use the ability on him. Yes, my beloved liege, I'll happily do so. The ant boss replied. Izuku could feel the happiness rolling of him. Zetsu, I know you have a similar ability to Baru. Whilst you don't get their quirks or knowledge, a small part of their essence would be transferred to you. So whenever you have the time, you can use the shared inventory and eat all of the grunts up. Izuku spoke. The greenette emotions after getting the system changed slowly. Whilst he feels some guilt, his gamer's mind didn't make him dwell on that fact long. Gabriel shook her head. Darling, after we deal with France and Denmark, let's go to Russia. Zest can come too, as she is coming with us to Japan. She said the last part offhandedly. Kath, can you tell Russian Hero Association I will be there in 14 hours? Izuku asked. I will be sending a message to Bun Bun and Nijire. I will be going to Russia. He sighed at that. Everyone act now. Izuku spoke in his mind to his shadows. Baru, Conan, and Itachi, can I entrust the 3 of you with the armored animal and the horse-type shadow soldiers so you can deal with the shy Hasaikai if I don't come from Russia for raid? As it's still around 29 hours till the start. Can you patrol Japan until the raid starts, or until I come back to Japan? Then in his mind, Dracos, you will go with them, but as you go through Africa, see if you can kill of any monsters that are out. Make sure no one sees you. And I want the Dracos to stay in Africa until Japanese Sunday evening. Izuku commanded more shadows, as he knew that Africa had no national level heroes. That continent is suffering the most, so he is going to secretly help them. The three mentioned individuals with the rest all came out of the shadow bar. The Dracos came out of the shadow with them bowing and then leaving. Back to Japan, Team Beru LV.11, General, Conan LV.42, Captain, Itachi LV.35, Captain, 18 Pegasus LV.8, Knight, 45 Kelpie LV.8, Knight, 26 Armored Monkey LV.8, Knight, 30 Armored Wolf LV.8, Knight, 25 Armored Horse LV.8, Knight, 22 Armored Rhino LV.7 Knight. Africa Team 50 Water Draco LV.17, Captain, 50 Earth Draco LV.17, Captain, 50 Fire Draco LV.17, Captain, 50 Poison Draco LV.17, Captain, 50 Wind Draco LV.17, Captain, 50 Lightning Draco LV.17, Captain, 50 Darkness Draco LV.18, Captain, 50 Light Draco LV.18, Captain. I think they would be more than enough to deal with them, darling. But what does the Graham ring do? She asked, seeing that there is a brown string that went through the center of the ring and with it being around Izuku's neck. The Graham's ring apparently conceal any entity inside it, and I can summon it with me, being able to control how much power they can have. Izuku looked at the ring. Although their loyalty would be in question still, he hummed. Zest's eyes widened. So basically you can easily seal one of the strongest beings in there without fighting it. Izuku shook his head. I need the being to agree to it first, that is the catch. With Zest nodding her head, Kathleen came back from her call. The Russian Hero Association is really thankful. The gate is still locked luckily, but they hope you come as fast as possible. Izuku smiled. Cool. Let us head back then. We can leave in 2 hours to France. Zest nodded, and with the Greenette taking the table into his inventory, he used shadow exchange with a shadow he had in the California base. Now Zest left to her room to pack, whilst Gabriel went into Izuku's shadow, with the two national heroes going to finish their paperwork for the night patrol. USA News. Good morning, America. This is John Clementine speaking on this beautiful Saturday morning. This night multiple things have happened, and I am here with Charlotte Flog to explain. John, the news presenter, started. Thank you, John. Charlotte continued. In the morning in San Diego, California, a national ranked villain named Toi Figuro was captured. A clip of the villain being taken into cuffs and a containment tube. The one who captured him was the shadow hero, Monarch, that is interning with Star and Stripe. From the reporters that came at the end of the fight, it was shown that Monarch only had one shadow soldier with him. The other shadow soldiers were around the USA, but we will be talking about that in a minute. John spoke. The quirk of Toi Figuro allows him to cancel an ability of his opponent, and from a blood test shows, it is said that Toji used an enhanced version of Trigger, enhancing his quirk to new heights, but that Trigger also shortened the lifespan of the consumer. However, then an image of Izuku Midoriya kneeling, then slowly standing with an arm missing and multiple stabs wounds. Sadly, Monarch was injured badly. Left arm was missing with 4 chest stabs, a shoulder stab, and finally a stab wound going through his neck. He wasn't able to use his healing ability and most likely other abilities of his from Toji with Trigger. He was fortunate that his shadow Raphael healed most of him. Then he drank a potion to regrow his arm. Monarch was fighting to subdue whilst Toji was fighting to kill. And as we are aware, Toi Figuro killed 3 previous national ranked heroes from both North and South America. What are your thoughts of the healing, John? Charlotte asked. As you said, we believe his healing was blocked by the lingering effects from Toi Figuro's quirk. From our knowledge, Raphael, a 12-winged shadow angel, has the most powerful healing, even compared to Monarch's strongest shadow, Gabriel. However, what puzzles me was why Raphael couldn't heal back Monarch's arm back, as we know that Raphael could regrow anything back. So I conclude the potion that Monarch used was a higher level potion of healing he is known to be able to produce. I am still curious how he makes them, as they are the most useful produce. John explained. Everyone believed that Izuku can create potions. How? No one knows, but even after the Chinese and South Koreans tried to analyze them after not using them in the Jeju Gate, they still got nothing. Now the remaining 5 unused potions have been kept by either the S-rank heroes to use as an emergency or still being experimented in labs. Thank you for the explanation, John. Now onto the point why no other Shadow Bar Gabriel was with Monarch. It was because he sent them all out around the USA. Now all monsters that have broken out of the gates have been killed, and gates that are yet to be cleared have been completed. This includes the monster hot zone in the middle. For the next week, we don't have to worry about monsters breaking out, giving our heroes and hunters a small break for them to start dealing with the gates that have appeared in the last 2 hours ago. A smiling Charlotte spoke. John then continued, "We also know that Monarch has Dragon's Shadow Soldiers, that we believe he defeated in the Himalaya Mountain S-rank gate." A picture of Lolu was shown. After speaking to the reporters, Monarch summoned the shadow named Lolu and left. A breath was taken. So this night behind us was good for the United States, as the one of the most wanted criminals was captured, and there will be no monsters for a week. Charlotte then spoke. Continuing on, Thomas Andre, the number 2 hero of America, has dealt with one of the major mafia organizations that was terrorizing Florida, Georgia, and Alabama for 3 months. The mafia organization had 2 S-rank villains and nearly 50 A-rank villains working, with many more B and C-rank villains. And so the news continued talking about Thomas Andre, other heroes, and other news. Back with Izuku, Gabriel, and Zest. 2 hours later, after saying goodbye to Kathleen and the other sidekicks, the trio traveled to France by the use of Izuku's Kamui. Now the 3 were standing on a rooftop awaiting a cat hero. "Good morning, you 3? Cat Noir asked in confusion. Izuku smiled as he gave a fist bump that the French hero reciprocated. "Zest is a friend from America who will be accompanying us." Cat Noir, otherwise known as Adrian, had a video call with Izuku once a week, with the 2 texting nearly every day, with Lila occasionally joining in. Both knew about Izuku having 3 girlfriends. "Nice meeting you again, Cat Noir," Gabriel said with a nod. "I'm Zest. Nice to meet you," Zest said in her cool but detached tone of voice. "Nice to meet you, Zest. I'm Cat Noir. Monarch told me bits about you," the French hero said. Now, in a more serious tone, he spoke. "I am glad you are here, Monarch. Since the gates appeared, France is having problems completing the higher-level gates." Izuku nodded as the 4 of them sat down on the chimneys on a random roof. "I heard about it. That is why I am here." Izuku rubbed his forehead. Compared to the other European countries, France has only 6 S-rank heroes, with you and Ladybug technically being 2 of the 6. The technically part is because the miraculous are not considered a quirk, so they are only technical S-ranks. And by extension, they are also the weakest S-rankers in France, as they only can use their special ability once. "I was hoping to talk to the French hero president today and see if we can get Hawkmoth or some more miraculous." Zest looked lost, but Gabriel just nodded, pretending to understand, as politics wasn't her cup of tea. She prefers intimidation to talking things out. Cat Noir nodded in thanks. Hawkmoth isn't really being a problem, with him usually accumatizating someone once every 2 weeks. "We only collected the dog and the fox miraculous since you've been here last," he sighed. "Me and Ladybug are dealing with most gates in Paris, with the other local heroes helping too." Izuku nodded. 8 out of the 19 been collected, pretty good. He smiled. The French hero shook his head. "Not really. The rest are in ringed forms, and now it is nearly impossible to get any back as Hawkmoth doesn't show up." He sighed again. "Let's go to the hero president, and I'll help any way I can for the next 6 hours. Izuku smiled reassuringly. "Zest, if you are tired, I can get you a hotel room you can sleep in." The American hero snorts and spoke. "I am more worried about you. You nearly died against a national rank villain." Cat Noir's eyes had widened as he turned to Izuku, looking him up and down. "Who did you fight? Are you all right? Did you win?" he asked in quick succession. Chuckling, Izuku responded, "As you can see, I'm all healed up. It was Toi Figuro, and yes, I won." He got bonked in the head from Gabriel. "Darling, you had 4 chest stab wounds, a shoulder stab wound, a stab that went through your neck, and finally your arm missing." The expression on Gabriel's face was a mixture of worried, angry, self-deprecating, and loving. Izuku hugged her lightly. "I'll get some rest later with Rumi." After the fight with the Nomu with Hawks and Ryukyu, whenever she was stopped by a fan or a reporter, they always asked a question, "How can you use telekinesis?" or something similar. And it was grating on her nerves. She promised her love that she won't tell anyone, and she doesn't break promises. Therefore, she used what All Might did when reporters asked him for his quirk: distract them or leave as fast as possible. Now, whenever she patrolled, Rumi would often use telekinesis to make her life easier with taking down criminals or monsters. Rumi was in her bedroom just waking up, with her mumbling, "I miss Zuku." So after cleaning up, she got a message saying that Izuku will be going to Russia as the S-rank gate was about to break. Why does he have to deal with other countries' problem? She thought to herself. Whilst she understood that gates are a problem, maybe she could convince her boyfriend into making an agency with her. Going to the news section, Miruko read an article about Izuku in America saying he defeated a national rank villain Toi Figuro. But when the rabbit hero continued to read, her face turned into one of horror. Her love, her boyfriend suffered so much, even having to use the holy elixir of healing on himself to regrow an arm that Raphael or himself couldn't regrow. Zuko told me that he is going to Canada after the raid tomorrow, and on Tuesday we are visiting heaven. With a determined nod, she called Nijire. Oi, make sure you have free time after the operation on Sunday till Wednesday. That was my plan too, Rumi. I read what happened, and I also think that Zuzu needs rest. So I presume we are staying in Canada even after we visit heaven? Nijire asked. Yes. The both of them talked for 10 minutes and said goodbye as they would see each other in a video call later in the day that also has Izuku in it. With Nijire, after showing the explosion release in her waves, she kept the infusion of explosions and illusion destroyer a secret. Herself and Rumi were fed up with people asking repetitive questions. She imagined Izuku who had to hide all of his quirk away from the rest of the world, with only herself, Rumi, Nizu, and Shota Aizawa knowing everything about the quirk Izuku has. Her boyfriend is asked on the daily to talk about his quirk, how he gets those potions, half a dozen of quirk marriage letters, and that was daily. Nijire still used the excuse that it evolved in the gate and now is proficient in using explosions in her waves under 50% of her power. Now she ignores those questions as she did promise her boyfriend that she won't tell anyone the truth. And she didn't even feel of telling anyone as she had her boyfriend and two sisters. She was preparing breakfast for herself in Izuku's room when she turned on the TV to have it in the background. Nijire nearly dropped her plate when she heard the news reporting of what happened to Izuku, his injuries and who he captured. Shock. She couldn't have moved for at least 5 minutes. Then a plan on trying to have Izuku relax as after he came back from the dragon dungeon, he couldn't relax properly. Rumi then called her, and Nijire agreed and got until Wednesday off, even if it means missing school. But Nizu quickly agreed to her absence. Izuku always supported Nijire, so it was Nijire's turn to support Izuku. No Omake, however, this chapter is 6k long. Winky face. Skill. Hand-to-hand LV.6. Passive. A passive skill that gives you 75% more experience when using only hands for any kind of combat against a villain or monster. The skill will increase the base speed by 5% if fighting without weapons. Skill. Darkness Overlord LV.3. Active. Evolved. The combination of the skill, Shadow Manipulation and Skill, Black Whip, second gift from All Might's predecessors, evolved into a superior control over darkness and its shadows. Skill. Infinity LV.4. Active. Allows you to distort space and time at will. Main function is to make an infinity around you so no one and nothing can touch you. 500 MP to activate and 85 MP per second to keep up. And that's a wrap for What If Deku Had Solo Leveling System, Part 10. Deku's journey is only getting wilder, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. If you want more, smash that like button. Let's hit 100 likes and keep this legendary series going strong. Big shout out once again to Michael Zilanka for their incredible work. Make sure to support them. And of course, to all my legendary viewers, thank you for always showing up and making this journey unreal. Drop your theories in the comments. What's Deku's next evolution? Who's the next challenger? Let's talk about it. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay strong, stay legendary. Chronos out.